YouTube. It's me in my car out here. This is my lunch. I gotta remember not to put my finger over the microphone on the camera because sometimes it messes with the sound. Anyhow, I was thinking on the kind of like maybe this is in the realm of fantasy, which if you've seen the movies that I have, you know why I think the way I think, because it's like you imagine, well, there's some other me, somebody just like me, right? Exact same, almost exactly the same duplicate version of yourself somewhere else in the universe, or let's just say in another universe, or at another event in another universe that happened or is going to happen or will happen or has happened. So in that other universe, the clone of yourself that's the same person, they didn't get the same job that you got, that you're now in this life, or they married another person, they married a different person, or there was they were presented with having to make a decision in their life in that universe, and instead of doing what you did, they did the other thing. So they're like, they don't live in that house that you're living in now, or they don't live in that city, or they're not married to that person, or they're not, you know, or they're dead, or they're, you know, or they went to a different school, or they made, just by that other parallel person, that duplicate, that they got to a point in the timeline of their life, and they met and married that other person instead of the person you're with now, or they're. So I think like that sometimes. I think, well, what if I could go back in time, and instead of like going to the party and getting really drunk and then, you know, crashing my car, or instead of going to that school, I went to another school, or instead of getting in that one decision that I made, if I just had made another decision, everything would have been totally different. I'd live in a different place. I would have met a different people. I would have pursued different kinds of hobbies, and it changed different a career. And so it leaves open the possibility, if you think there's a mini worlds scenario, there's other people that are exactly like you, at other times, or in possibly other places in the universe, and it's just a little bit different. And that duplicate person made such and such a decision that was totally different, that totally changed their life. Which gets back to a story I remember reading about. It was these people could travel back in time, but when they travel back in time, everything's set up to where they don't cause any changes in the timeline. So they had to stay on a path. They had to do everything specifically a certain way. It was hunting dinosaurs. It was like a dinosaur adventure where they go and they kill a dinosaur that was going to be killed anyways. But what happened was somebody dropped something or got off the path and stepped on a plant. And then when they came back to the present, things were different. The world it changed the world. Just the slight changes in the timeline affects the future, which is kind of an interesting idea if you really think about it, that if you could go back in time, the further you could go back in time, the smaller the changes that you would make in the timeline. The further back you went, those would have bigger effects. So let's say you could go back in time like 24 hours. So anything that you would do would still change the timeline, but not as significantly. Let's say if you could go back like 100 years, because once you make one small change, then that affects something else, that affects something else, and that affects something else. So there's more of a chain reaction, that there's more of a spreading out through a longer period of time. So if you were to look at it on a graph, you would see like a branching out, a multi-branching out. So you went back in time, like let's say an hour, then there would be less branching. And if you went back 100 years, there'd be more branching out. So it's interesting to think about. Just some fantasy thoughts, just like speculative, speculating about, But sometimes I think, well, my life's not going too good. Things seem pretty shitty right now. And then I think, well, maybe there's a duplicate me that's that married that other person, or that got that other job, or that instead of deciding to do one thing rather than another thing, they did that thing and it changed them. So there's this other me somewhere else, or that maybe I'll get another chance somewhere. Which is like why people think they kind of hope that there's another life, because in a way they feel cheated in this life, like they didn't get what they were supposed to get, or they didn't achieve their potential, they didn't live up to what they could have achieved. So in a way they're kind of hoping that they can get another chance. But me, I don't think so. I wouldn't want to come back to this world. I I I think I would want to come back if it was an idyllic condition, where maybe I could be born like in Tahiti and live in like a really idyllic time, period. But as far as the way this world is, I don't think I would want. I don't have any yearning or hope or of any kind to want to come back to this world. Anyhow, that's my thought for the day on that. Talk at you later.